Okay, this is Alyce-Kay House continuing with my um, craft table chat, as I'm calling it, just to call it something. And this is just where I'm working on crafts. It's not a craft with me. I'm not explaining my crafts. It's just what I'm doing while I sit and talk with you. And we're just chatting about things. And we've been talking about, I've been talking about, and you've been listening, and you're welcome to talk back. I mean, I'm not going to hear you if you talk back to the video, but you can write to me. You can make comments below. But what I was talking about was how I explained some examples from my own life of when I've tried to do something good and people have taken it to be something bad. And part of the reason why I'm explaining that is because I want you to understand that when you see a pastor or just, anybody, an individual who's doing something that you think is bad, chances are they don't intend to be bad. It's they probably are trying to do something good and they're just mistaken. Or it's also possible, oh, I know this is so hard to imagine, but it's also possible that you are the person who is wrong. And that never occurs to us, does it? Um, it's kind of funny how that happens. We always think that we're right. But I can guarantee you that if you think somebody's wrong, chances are you're sometimes wrong too. You're not perfect. And there are things that we are so sure of, and we criticize other people based on those certainties, but it's really invalid, or maybe just petty. And anyway, my point in sharing that is to help you to think through the fact and to be gentle in your corrections if it's really necessary for you to correct people. As I mentioned earlier, I really think that, and I've just come to this conclusion over the last 10 years or so, but I really think that rather than me correcting people, I can just pray that God will help them to know the truth. Because first of all, then it's not up to me to decide whether they're doing something wrong or not, because I could be wrong. But also, I'm leaving it up to God, and the Holy Spirit is much better at correcting and changing people's hearts than I am. It's just kind of funny how that works. I'm not good at changing people's hearts at all. Um, so just consider that. But the other reason I'm sharing that is because I just want you to think about how your criticism of people can discourage them and can keep them from doing what God's calling them to do. And you don't want to do that. Believe me, you don't want to be responsible for somebody not doing what God's called them to do. If you are criticizing them, chances are there are 25 other people who are criticizing them. You are not the only one, especially if you're right. Okay? And they don't need to be hearing that over and over and just being dogged by people. It's really, really awful. So sorry if that convicts anybody. No, I'm not sorry. I want it to convict you. But, yeah. and I'm not being condemning, you guys, because I've been there too. I used to be so critical. Oh my word, I used to be so critical. And maybe I still am and I don't realize it. I hope that I've changed. But, I hope that I haven't been responsible for anybody leaving their ministry. Dear God, help me if I am. Um, so, but I'm sharing this with you because, it's safer for you to hear it from me because I'm kind of anonymous here. You can't even see my face. And so, you can listen to what I'm saying and you can kind of examine your heart. And, I don't even know that you're examining your heart. So it's not, putting you into an awkward position or anything like that. But the other reason that I'm sharing is because I want to share with you my struggles. And so that's part of sharing my struggles was sharing some of that background with you about how I just shared a couple times, but there were many, many times that I've tried to do something good and have been really extremely, extremely, extremely criticized for it in very, very hurtful, damaging ways. And I'm sure that the people who did that had, whatever, maybe they just hadn't learned the lesson yet, as I probably hadn't at that point, about not being so critical, or maybe they were hurting inside themselves, and sometimes hurting people hurt people is what they say. People take their own hurts out on others, and that happens a lot. And so, we have to be careful. That's one thing to think about too, is to examine yourself when you feel like you need to correct somebody. Think about, ask God to examine you. That's really the most effective thing, is asking God to examine you. And he's going to be much nicer than a human examining you, believe me. But ask him to examine you and see if there's something in you that needs to be changed, because quite often when we're being critical of others, it's because we don't want to deal with something in our own lives. And so, we're just looking for things that are wrong in other people to protect ourselves, sort of. And that's really not a good way of doing it. So anyway, so I'm sharing this to just kind of share that there was a lot of stuff that I went through, that I still stayed a really strong Christian through it. I still, I never stopped believing in God. I never stopped being a Christian or anything like that. It was hurtful, but I was able to press into God and make it through. Sometimes kind of limping along, but I did make it through. But, after a while, you keep having those things happening to you, and at some point, it's not even that you throw your hands up in the air. For me, at least, it wasn't, I didn't say, that's it, I give up, they could all go to hell. I didn't say anything like that or anything. It was just, smaller things happened. I mean, some big things happened too, but smaller things happened, and it was kind of like the straw that broke the camel's back. And it just, I think about, well, right now it's April, it's close to the end of April, and close to the end of December, actually Christmas. I don't know if you would call it a breakdown or what, but there was a thing that happened that was not huge, especially compared to a lot of the other things that I've been through, but it was that final straw that breaks the camel's back. And there had already been signs that that looking back, I should have recognized, or somebody maybe should have, but we didn't, that it was just getting to be too much for me. Cracks, kind of, you could say. But at that point, I just shattered, and I just couldn't handle anything. I wouldn't say I was catatonic. It wasn't like that, but I couldn't handle going out in public. It's still really, really hard for me to go out in public. In fact, tomorrow's Easter, and we're supposed to go out and have dinner with my daughter and her boyfriend, and I've been feeling really sick to my stomach for the last couple of days, because just the thought of being around people other than my husband or my best friend or God is just really, really difficult for me, because I don't feel safe anymore. I just feel really, really, really unsafe. I wouldn't call it agoraphobia. It's, I actually don't think that it's a bad thing. I think it's just that I need to heal, and I think that it's that I need to learn how to make myself safe. And so that's kind of that's what I've been doing. I shouldn't say that's kind of what I've been doing. That's what I've been doing, is learning about how I need to be careful who I allow into my life right now. And I think that it's a gradual thing. I think that I may start out, letting some people into my life, and just a few here and there, and then, gradually getting to be more and more to where it's safe. It's safe for me to be sharing on YouTube, because you can't really hurt me. At least I don't think you can. And if you've listened to this, to all this, if you've been listening along so far, I don't think you're the kind of person who's going to hurt me, because you're like, there must be a reason that you're listening. It must be because you can relate or something. But I'm having to learn good habits. I couldn't even go to a counselor. And to me, it used to be that going to a counselor was like going to a spa for me, because having somebody to talk things through and help me to work things out was just like really a relief and everything. But I was actually offered some free counseling, and I couldn't take the person up on it because I was just so scared to open myself up. That's just where I was, and I've never been that way before. And so it's been just really, really difficult. And so, I'm telling you that because I want you to know, if you're going through something really hard, I've been there. And, if you want to share with me, you can. Now, I am super, super busy. And so sometimes it takes me weeks to get back to people by email. I mean, I'm not kidding, you guys. It's just really, I get a lot of email. So it takes a while. So you might be better off finding somebody else. But you're welcome to write to me, and I will write back. And if you don't hear from me within a couple weeks, then nudge me, because maybe your email kind of got lost in all the shuffle and stuff. But, and again, that's not intentional. It's not that I'm being negligent or anything. It's just that, I'm really overwhelmed with everything that I have to do, and I'm overwhelmed emotionally, and I can only do so much. But I do honestly want to be there for you. And I might be able to help you find somebody else that you can talk to if I'm not going to be able to really walk through things with you enough. But I'm just, the main thing that I want you to know is that you're not alone. I want you to know that you are not the only person who's going through really hard times. And you may be going through stuff that's much worse than what I've gone through. And there are people who have gone through much worse than I have gone through. You're not alone. You are not alone. And you just need to recognize that it's the lie of the enemy that wants to isolate you and make you think that you're the only person who's ever gone through stuff like this, and that you're suffering alone, and that there's no way that you can open up to somebody. One of the things, as a result of my books, because my first book talked about abortion, one of the things that I've had so many women write to me about that is just so sad is, and these are women who have been in churches, is that they had an abortion many years ago and they've never told anybody. And I don't blame them, because it's not safe. But you guys, we've got to make it safe for people to be able to share about these things and not condemn them. If they're sharing with you, it's because, they're hurting, and maybe they see that what they did was wrong and they need support in dealing with that, not condemnation. Seriously, folks. And so, please, 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 if somebody shares with you about something like that, be understanding, be kind, be gentle. Just listen to them. Don't be critical. Let them work through stuff, but be there for them and hold them up. And if you feel like they need, more help, then suggest to them, or go with them to a counselor or something like that. But for Pete's sake, don't be condemning. Because it doesn't, what are you trying to accomplish? Really stop and think about that. It doesn't accomplish anything. It doesn't help anybody, and probably what you're doing is you're trying to hide something in yourself, to be honest. So anyway, so that's just what I wanted to share today. And I don't mean to be preachy, but I just really do feel like there's some things that need to be said that nobody's saying because we're afraid to. And there's two sides that I'm trying to share. I'm trying to share with those of you who are critical, and I'm trying to share with those of you who have been hurt. And I hope, gosh, I just pray that my sharing is going to somehow help you with both those things. And anyway, I love you all, and I will talk to you again soon. Bye-bye.